Well, first I thought I was going to be recording something on the failed state theme of things here in Latvia, but now it seems that a majority of the Riga City Council, and Riga has an enormous city council, there are like 60 members. I cannot think of any other city in the world that has that many city councilors, and for what purpose Riga has 60 city councilors, nobody really knows. But according to press reports, about 34 of them, or certainly a majority of them, have signed a letter asking the commission that approved the plans by the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, LBGT community to have a pride march a couple of days from now on Saturday, May 16th. Well, this group has asked that this permit, this march permit, be rescinded on the grounds that traffic would have to be blocked on a couple of large streets in Riga. And the whole thing, of course, was evil and immoral. And one of the signers was Ludvigs Almers, who is a minister of some sort, and the other one was a lady by the name of Helmi Stalte, interestingly enough, a representative of a very strange and interesting little Latvian minority, the Leaves, the people who speak a Finno-Ugric language and used to inhabit the coastline districts of Latvia, and actually native speakers of the Leave language are now just a small handful. But aside from that, this lady also signed the request to ban the march, to rescind the permit, and all of that. This is yet again evidence that this country, in terms of understanding democracy, in terms of understanding freedom of speech, is really a third world banana republic, except that there are no banana trees growing in Latvian forests. That has to be said. The world has to know this. Another reason that was cited for banning the march, rescinding its permit, was that it would, of course, cost money in police resources and setting up barriers and blocking traffic. Although that was partly done, and the police were sent to monitor the 9th of May events by the Russian-speaking community. But what these people are really saying is that because of the budget difficulties that previous governments have sort of dragged the whole country into, that we simply will suspend the freedom of speech and the freedom of assembly until there's enough money to have the adequate amount of police to defend, the rights of all parties involved. But what that amounts to is saying, well, let's have a dictatorship until we have enough money in order to run a democracy. But unfortunately, in terms of police expenses, a police state is a little bit more expensive than a democracy where the police occasionally turn out to keep order at certain mass public gatherings, whether they be political and controversial, or whether they be sports events or rock concerts or anything that can, for one reason or another, get out of hand. Well, that is sort of what's going on the free speech side of things here in Latvia yet again. I mentioned that one of the signatories of this appeal to rescind the parade permit for the Baltic Pride, it's not only Latvian LGBT, whatever, you understand what I mean, for these minorities to be marching, but also from Lithuania and Estonia. It would be the first Baltic Pride. As I said, one of the signatories is a minister, I believe, of the Lutheran Church, into which, I was nominally born. I don't consider myself a religious person. And that sort of makes me hark back to the events of 1905 in Latvia, when, among other things, the revolutionaries rose up against the Tsarist government, but mainly against the German aristocracy that was dominating this country. One of the things they did was to burn manor houses and to burn churches and to forcibly have ministers of the church, which supported, of course, the existing order, sort of march in front of uh, parades of revolutionaries singing revolutionary songs while the member of the clergy was sort of not exactly tarred and feathered, but sort of driven in front of this crowd as his church burned in the background. Which is, of course, not to say that revolutionary violence ever leads to anything good, and that was my opinion right after the riots that we had here on January 13th. But one can certainly emotionally understand why, at some point, people simply have enough, and have enough of the church standing on the side of oppression, standing on the side of authoritarian and totalitarian thinking. And maybe it's time for another 1905. Now, I don't mean that seriously, because historically in 1905, when many of the German manor houses were burned, and when some of the churches were burned and ransacked, there were a lot of nice things that disappeared, library collections and works of art, and the papers of both the German clergy and the German barons in their manor houses that would have been of historical value now, but which were sort of burned and sacked and scattered over the countryside. Oh, this is not what I am saying would be a good thing, but if somebody were to pitch a paving stone at some symbol of oppression in Latvia, especially if the Baltic Pride march is banned, I would not condemn that person. I would not say, hey, that was an evil and bad thing to do. And I stress yet again, the issue here, the underlying fundamental issue is, do we want to retreat from Western style freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, no matter what the content of your message is? You have a right to be out there. You have a right to state your views and to gather in public and even to parade in public, having made all of the necessary prior arrangements. And that this should not be rescinded because of some narrow-minded, and I dare to even use the word authoritarian and fascist members of the enormous city council here, of which there is perhaps evidence that at least more than 30 of the 60 city councilors are idiots.